Hello, welcome to Infidelity Stories by Jackie Channel. We hope you will have fun with us. Enjoy watching. I never expected a single Saturday to change everything. Benjamin and Freya had been married for 10 years. Their marriage grown stale, something I would come to understand intimately. Benjamin buried himself in work, while Freya turned to faith to fill the emotional void on that particular Saturday. Freya urged Benjamin to join her at church, hoping to rekindle their connection. Benjamin reluctantly agreed, stepping into a place he hadn't visited in years. As the service began, I could feel his gaze drifting. I was seated near the altar, newly assigned to this church. I didn't think much of it at first, but something told me he was looking at me. Throughout the sermon, our eyes met briefly, and I felt a spark of curiosity I couldn't explain. After the service, Freya introduced Benjamin to some members of the congregation, including me. I remembered how I greeted him, my voice soft yet confident, my smile warm. I noticed my eyes lingered just a second longer than expected as we spoke about mundane topics, church events and community projects. I felt an odd connection, something I hadn't experienced in years. That night, though, I didn't know it. Then Benjamin couldn't shake the memory of my face. Something inside him stirred a longing he didn't yet understand. The following Saturday he attended church again, this time under the guise of supporting Freya, though in truth he was eager to see me. His heart quickened when the priest announced that volunteers were needed to help with church repairs, and I would be overseeing the projects. Benjamin immediately offered to assist when he arrived at the church the next day. He found me waiting by the entrance holding a toolbox. We began working on fixing an old pew together, and our conversation flowed naturally. He talked about his job as an architect, about loving to bring new life to old structures. I listened intently, my eyes lighting up with genuine interest. I shared stories about my life before taking my vows, revealing my love for art and literature. Benjamin seemed surprised by my wit and humor traits. He didn't associate with someone in religious life. As the hours passed, our interactions grew more playful, and I heard him laugh, a sound that seemed to have been missing from his life for a long time. Benjamin began finding excuses to spend time at the church, whether it was fixing another broken item or helping with upcoming events. He ensured his path crossed with mine. Our conversations became less formal and more personal. I teased him about his tendency to get things done perfectly, and he would tease me back about getting paint on my hands during projects. During one particularly warm afternoon, we painted AF together, sharing stories about our lives. Benjamin spoke about his struggles and his marriage, though he carefully avoided criticizing Freya directly. I in turn opened up about the challenges of religious life, admitting, I sometimes missed the freedom of my pre-convent days. I began noticing the way Benjamin's eyes would linger on me, and I found myself looking forward to his visits, my heart fluttering. Whenever he entered the room, we exchanged subtle compliments, our words laced with double meanings, though neither of us acknowledged it aloud. A quiet understanding was forming between us, a dangerous chemistry that blurred the line between friendship and something much deeper. One rainy afternoon, after Benjamin finished fixing a squeaky door in the church, I invited him to join me for tea in the rectory. At first, our conversation stayed light, focused on renovation plans and architectural ideas, but as the rain poured outside, the mood shifted. Benjamin spoke about the growing emptiness in his marriage, revealing how Freya's increasing devotion to her faith made him feel like a distant spectator in his own home. I don't even know if she sees me anymore, he admitted, his voice tinged with frustration and sadness. I listened intently, my heart aching for him in a way I couldn't fully explain. In turn, I shared my own struggles with faith. I thought I was certain. When I took my vows, I said softly, staring into my tea. But there are days. I wonder if I made the right choice. When he reached out and his hand brushed mine, a jolt went through us both. For the first time, we acknowledged our loneliness to each other. Our shared confessions created a bond that neither of us could deny, even as we both felt the weight of guilt beginning to press down. In the days that followed, Benjamin found himself thinking of me constantly. I knew this because our interactions became increasingly charged. My laughter, my voice, the way my eyes lit up when I smiled, all of it consumed his thoughts. He began inventing reasons to visit the church more frequently, always hoping to catch a glimpse of me. I too found myself drawn to Benjamin in ways I hadn't experienced before. I prayed for strength, yet my heart betrayed me, quickening at the mere thought of him. I chastised myself for the feelings I was developing, but couldn't resist the pull of his presence. One afternoon, while organizing hymnals together, our hands accidentally brushed again. This time neither of us pulled away. Immediately our eyes met, and the unspoken connection between us hung heavy in the air. I quickly looked away, my cheeks flushing, but the moment lingered in my mind. Despite our growing feelings, we tried to maintain the facade of innocence. Yet every interaction became charged with unspoken emotion. Our shared laughter carried an undercurrent of longing, and even the simplest gestures, a smile, a glance, held a depth that left us both reeling. Temptation was no longer a distant shadow. It had taken root in our hearts, and we both knew it. The line between friendship and something more blurred further. One quiet evening, Benjamin stayed late at the church to help me organize supplies for an upcoming charity event. The dim lighting and the soft hum of our conversation created an atmosphere that felt almost intimate as we worked side by side. Our movement slowed, our proximity narrowing. At one point I reached for a box just as Benjamin did, our hands meeting. This time the touch lingered, neither of us making an effort to pull away. Benjamin turned to face me. His expression conflicted yet intense. "Luna," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. I felt my breath hitch as I looked into his eyes. "Benjamin, we can't," I murmured, but my voice lacked conviction. The weight of our emotions pressed down on us, and for a brief moment the world outside seemed to vanish. Suddenly I stepped back, my heart pounding. "I think you should go," I said, my voice shaky. Benjamin hesitated, pain flickering across his face, but he nodded and left without another word. That night I couldn't sleep, my thoughts consumed by the forbidden connection that had begun to unravel our carefully constructed lives. The weeks passed, and the tension between Benjamin and me grew unbearable. We tried to maintain boundaries, but our connections seemed to defy reason. Late one evening, after a community meeting at the church, I was sitting alone in the garden. The moonlight bathed my face and I felt serene, yet deeply troubled. Benjamin approached me softly. "Luna," he said. I turned to him, my expression unreadable. "I can't stop thinking about you," he admitted, his voice trembling. My heart pounded in my Benjamin, "This what we feel?" "It's wrong," I whispered, though my voice wavered with doubt. He sat beside me closer than he should have, our knees nearly touching. "It doesn't feel wrong to me," he said. "It feels real. It feels like I'm finally alive." I looked away, tears brimming in my eyes. "I've taken vows," I said, my voice breaking. "I've committed myself to God, but you make me question everything." In the charged silence that followed, Benjamin reached out and gently touched my cheek. I didn't pull away. Instead, I closed my eyes, and in that moment all our resistance crumbled. Benjamin leaned in, and our lips met in a tender, hesitant S. When we pulled apart, both of us were breathless, our emotions a chaotic whirlwind. "What have we done?" I whispered, my hand trembling against my lips. But neither of us could deny that our lives had just changed forever. After our first S, we were overwhelmed by guilt and confusion. We avoided each other for days, hoping that distance might quell the feelings we couldn't control. But the more we tried to stay apart, the more we longed for one another. Benjamin began to rationalize his actions. He told himself that his marriage to Freya was already broken, and that I was the only person who truly understood him. I, however, was trapped in an emotional tug-of-war. I prayed fervently for clarity, but my feelings for Benjamin grew stronger with each passing day. Inevitably, our paths crossed again during another church project. The tension between us was palpable. We worked in silence, our hands brushing occasionally, sending jolts of electricity through us both. Finally, Benjamin couldn't bear it any longer. "We can't pretend this isn't happening," he said quietly. I looked at him, my eyes filled with anguish. "Benjamin, I don't know what to do." I admitted. We began meeting in secret, finding solace in stolen moments and whispered conversations. Every glance, every touch, every word became a dangerous dance of longing and restraint. Our connection deepened, even as we both knew the risks were growing with every passing day. One evening, Benjamin suggested we visit a secluded cabin owned by a friend of his, claiming it would give us a quiet space to discuss our feelings. I hesitated but ultimately agreed, my heart torn between fear and an irresistible pull toward him. The cabin was small and cozy, nestled in the woods. The fire crackled in the hearth, casting a warm glow across the room. At first, our conversation was stilted, filled with confessions of guilt and uncertainty. "I've never felt this way about anyone," Benjamin admitted, his voice raw. "Not even Freya," my eyes filled with tears. I feel the same. I responded, but what we're doing, it's a sin, though my voice lacked conviction. As the night wore on, the walls we'd built around ourselves crumbled. Benjamin reached for my hand, and I didn't pull away. Our lips met again, this time with more urgency. We surrendered to our emotions, letting our desire consume us. The storm outside mirrored the tempest within us, as we spent the night together, lost in each other's arms. When morning came, we lay in silence, both knowing we had crossed a line we could never return from. I woke up with a heavy sense of guilt, but also an undeniable feeling of satisfaction. I was still in a state of disbelief, grappling with the enormity of what we had done. I had always lived by a strict code of faith, and now I was devastated. The vows I had taken now seemed like chains, and yet in Benjamin's arms I had felt free. "Benjamin, we can't keep doing this." I whispered my voice. Trembling Benjamin turned to face me, his hand gently touching my cheek. "I know, but I don't want to stop," he confessed. "You make me feel alive, Luna. I haven't felt this way in years." I pulled away, sitting up in the bed. "I'm supposed to belong to God," I said, my voice a mix of sorrow and confusion. "And you belong to your wife." Benjamin's expression darkened. "Do I? I'm not sure what I belong to anymore." The weight of our actions hung between us like a thick fog. We were both trapped, unable to reconcile our feelings with our responsibilities. As the weeks passed, our affair became a tangled web of lies. I found myself living a double life. My superiors at the convent suspected nothing, but I began avoiding certain duties to make time for Benjamin. I lied about being unwell or needing rest, all while my mind was consumed with thoughts of him. One Saturday, when Benjamin came to church for what he told Freya was a quick meeting, we exchanged knowing glances from across the room. Every time we spoke to each other, our words were laced with hidden meanings, and the air around us seemed to hum with unspoken tension. I began to notice changes in Benjamin's behavior. He seemed more withdrawn during our meetings, his mind constantly elsewhere. One afternoon, as we shared a quiet moment in the church, I couldn't help but ask, "Is everything okay? You've been acting strange lately." Benjamin hesitated, the weight of his lies pressing down on him. "It's nothing," he said, but I saw the guilt in his eyes. I felt a sharp pang in my C*******. T was Benjamin starting to pull away? Was he growing tired of our affair? A new emotion stirred within me, jealousy. The thought of losing him, of him choosing Freya over me, ignited a fire. I hadn't expected the passion we shared was no longer just about desire. It was about possession. Then came the moment, everything unraveled. I received a letter from the convent's superiors, a summons to meet with the abbess. The affair was no longer a secret. My meeting with the abbess was long and filled with shame. She sat across from me with a disappointed look. "You have violated your vows, Sister Luna," she said. "Your actions have betrayed the very foundation of your calling." I bowed my head, tears welling in my eyes. "I am so sorry," I whispered. "I never meant for this to happen. I never wanted to hurt anyone." The abbess gave me a choice: seek forgiveness through penance or leave the convent and live in exile from the life I had known. I was torn, but deep down I knew I had to make a decision. In our final meeting in a secluded park, Benjamin and I faced the destruction of our lives. "I'm so sorry," he said softly. "I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted any of this to happen." I looked away, my face pale and tired. "I know," I whispered, "but I've lost everything. Benjamin, my faith, my vows, my purpose, all because of a moment of weakness." When Benjamin reached out to me, I pulled back. "No," I said quietly, "we've crossed a line we can never come back from. It's over. Benjamin, we have to let each other go." The finality of my words crushed him. "I can't imagine my life without you," he admitted, his voice breaking. I stood, my body trembling. "You need to find your way back to your life. I need to find mine." And with that I walked away from him, leaving Benjamin to face the consequences of our choices alone. In the months that followed, I left the convent and moved to another city, seeking a fresh start. I found work at a local bookstore, but the ache of my lost love haunted me. I prayed daily, asking for forgiveness, but deep down I couldn't help but wonder if I would ever find peace. Several years later, our paths crossed once more at a church event. When our eyes met, neither of us could bear to speak. Knowing the pain that still lingered between us, we exchanged a brief, solemn glance before turning away. Our affair, once full of passion, was now a distant shadow. Gone but never forgotten. A reminder that while life moves forward, some wounds never truly heal. If you feel that this story is meaningful and brings useful lessons, please like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next videos.